The following interview is being conducted as part of the Price of Freedom Oral History Series, sponsored by the Madison County Military Heritage Commission to inform the public of the sacrifices made by veterans in our community on battlefields around the world. Each veteran interviewed received a Valor Award for their heroism during combat and is a member of the Military Heritage Hall of Heroes. We wish to thank the Huntsville School System and the ETP Broadcast Center for their help in presenting this Military Heritage program. Hello everyone, I'm Tom Kennemer. Welcome to our program. Today we'll be talking with former U.S. Air Force officer Zig Jastrebski. Zig was a navigator weapons officer aboard the F-4 Phantom jet and flew over 200 missions during the Vietnam War. He was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross with 4 Oak Leaf clusters for his courageous service during the war. Zig served 20 years in the Air Force and was inducted into the Madison County Military Heritage Hall of Heroes in 2003. Zig, it's a pleasure to have you with us today, sir.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, good to have you. Tell us a little about yourself. You're a California native, right?
Yes, I'm actually, on my mother's side, 4th generation Californian. My family goes back into the 1880s in San Pedro area and the LA area. And my father was born in Chicago, and during World War II, he was out to California and met my mother. And that's where I was born in 1944 out there. My father was actually, he was 4F at the time. Well, he was. And that's actually something that we don't see today. He had rheumatic fever when he was young, so he had valve damage. Right. And that eventually caught up with him in the 60s.
Well, tell us about your family growing up. You have brothers and sisters?
I have a sister, lives in Manhattan Beach, California, and we're the 2 survivors. My mother is deceased now, and I got cousins and everything else out there, and nephews and nieces living out in California.
When did you envision that you might want to go into the military? Maybe fly a jet aircraft?
Well, first place, you have to understand the 1960s is a different environment for young men.
Yeah, I remember well. Yeah,
We
yes,
remember that. So when you go to college, what was going to happen to you as soon as you graduated? You're going to be drafted.
Right.
So now the question is, do you want to be drafted or go do something else? And I've kind of made a decision. I'd like to see if I can pick something a little bit better than just getting a draft and a rifle, 1960s. Yeah. So I did a little checking between the Navy and the Air Force, and Air Force offered me flight school. So I accepted that, and I went in 1968.
Where did you go to flight school, Zig?
I went to Mather, Sacramento, California. That was basic navigator training, which is probably not the best training for what I wound up doing, but that was to get my wings, and from there. I was high enough in my class and where I got to pick the aircraft I wanted to, and I got into the fighter and the F-4. So I started F-4 training, and I was in the F-4 my entire career. But that was only really the first part of the training. Then next year, I was actually in school for nearly 2 years before I went to an operational unit.
What was it like that first time in a jet aircraft, zooming high and wild blue yonder?
Well, it's like one of the first things you have to understand is that in the fighter pilot business, they test you and figure out who you are and what you can do. So the first ride you got was a dollar ride, and they stick you back and see who got sick.
So you made it?
Oh yeah, I got through that okay. We had a good time. Matter of fact, we went flying up. I was at George Air Force Base in Victorville, California. And we went flying up north on Kern River, did a low level up to Kern River Canyon, flew down there, chasing airplanes and what have you. So yeah, we had a good time. Yeah.
Now you chose to become a navigator and weapons officer.
Well, that was second choice. I had a pilot school slot. Okay. Going to pilot school, I tested high enough and got an immediate thing, and I failed my eye exam.
I see.
I wound up with 20/25 vision, and at that time they wouldn't correct it, and so I had to take something else. So I took a navigator school slot. Yeah. And then once you got your wings, it's correctable 2400 anyway, so it was no big deal.
Now, Zig, in the F-4, is that the first seat or second seat?
I sat in the second seat. It's 2 seats.
I see.
It's 2 tandem seats.
I see. Right.
So you had a pilot and a weapon systems officer. Yeah.
How much training did you have to go before you went to Vietnam? And were you stationed somewhere else before going to Vietnam?
At the time when I went through school, when I was finishing up F-4 training, I originally had orders to Vietnam, and all the lieutenants, young lieutenants, got their orders canceled, and we were sent to stateside units, either Seymour Johnson in South Carolina, or I went to Holloman, New Mexico, Holloman Air Force Base. And there was actually a whole group of us that had all gone through NAV school. There was about 10 of us, and we all knew each other and had been knowing each other for quite a while, and so we kind of followed each other actually through our careers in a lot of ways, and same type of assignments. So that was one of the good sides of it.
Getting a little ahead in the interview, but do you still stay in touch with a lot of the friends that you made while you served in the Air Force?
A couple of folks I flew with in Vietnam. An old mentor of mine who was actually best man at my wedding down in Florida, and he's down in Florida. We try to see him every once in a while. So we do see a few.
You belong to like the Air Force Association or something like that, yeah?
I'm also a member of an organization called the Red River Valley Fighter Pilots Association. They're known as River Rats. The original organization comes out of 1967, 68, and the old Robin Olds days, if you know.
I remember that name.
Yeah. He was actually one of the instigators. And it was started, quote unquote, as a tactics conference, work tactics in the war, but it actually became a sort of more of a social, in some ways, organization. The original organization, though, to be a member, you had to be north of the Red River. That's Hanoi. So you had to fly up there or on the ground or something. That was the requirement for original membership of the organization. You know the organization because they were one of the instigators of the POW bracelets, and had a number of things. It started the white table ceremony at that time to remember our POWs, our KIAs, and their missing, and they would celebrate, and remember that those people were with us at that time. So that all comes out of that history. I'm part of that organization. Now that organization, 20, 25 years ago, we realized that since we were doing a lot of fundraising for MIA, KIA families, for education funds, we were a last bottle club, and that would not work. So we opened the organization up to flyers across, if you're related to aviation and military flying. And right now the organization has somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 members. It's quite a large organization. And over the last 50 years, we've generated over $2 million in scholarship money for families.
That's always an impressive ceremony, the white table display. It really is. The missing man table, people call it. Now, were you married at the time you went to
No, I was not. I was really, I thank God I probably wasn't. That's been, I have a lot of friends who were married, but that is a hardship that I don't think wives should have to go through sometimes, especially what I wound up doing.
Do you still remember your first combat mission once you were in Vietnam?
Generally speaking, when remember I spent 2 years in Holloman flying. And the unit at that time was what they called a dual base unit. So we were going to Europe all the time. We had the mission in Europe. In that, the people I flew with, I was a young lieutenant, I'm a new guy. I was flying with old heads, guys that had been around for a long time. Some of them with a lot of combat missions. And some of them originally they were all backseaters. Pilots were originally in the backseater. And that didn't work out very well in the Air Force, so they started putting navigators in. And so the thing is, we didn't compete for flying time, the stick time. So they taught me how to fly the airplane, taught me what to do. I learned that over the time. So by the time I get to Vietnam, I'm a pretty experienced backseater. I've been around, I knew what I was doing. A lot of training for a number of years. So in that sense, I remember.
It wasn't super exciting, but you still remember.
Well, I remember. You remember certain things. You get a checkout in theater. Now, I got to explain something, too.
Go ahead.
When I got to Vietnam, the war was over. Okay?
Now, what year was this?
This is January 72, 1972. When I got to Da Nang, the first thing somebody hit me with is, says, boy, you got to figure out how you can pay here for 181 days so you can get a combat tour out of this. That was minimum 6 months to get credit, because we're packing up to go home. And that was during the Vietnamization. They're pulling everything out. That was the end of January. On the 1st of April 1972, the North Vietnam invaded South Vietnam with 14 divisions of over 120,000 men. That was a full-scale land war at that time. Obviously, we weren't going home.
Right. Change of plans.
Change of plans. So the cycle of type of missions you flew, where I started off going out flying into Laos and doing bombing runs in Laos and in Vietnam primarily, changed dramatically in that. Then we started going North Vietnam after April. And start of linebacker, what they call linebacker 1, in April-May timeframe, which is the sustained bombing in North Vietnam,
right,
which we did all the way to October. And then peace, we stopped bombing North Vietnam at that time. The North Vietnamese walked out of the peace agreements. President Nixon was not a happy camper. And we did the bombing of North Vietnam, Hanoi, with the B-52s and what they call linebacker 2.
Right.
And then when I was there through that, and in January '73, when I got on the Freedom Bird to come home, I think it was this last day we bombed North Vietnam.
Mm. You've been there more than 181 days, right?
I had been there a year.
Right. You had your full year in. Now, once you got there to Vietnam, was there a constant training? Did you undergo more training because you're in a combat area?
Actually, no, because you've got to remember, in peacetime in the States, that's what you're doing. You're continually training. Right. You're trying to get up there. When you go into a combat now, you're applying what you've been doing.
Right. What you've learned so far.
There's refreshers and different type of things that you do in that, but actually a training program, no. One thing about that time period in the Air Force, the assumption was that if you're an operational air crew in the fighter, you could do any mission, whether it was dropping bombs or flying air-to-air chasing MiGs. We'd flip-flop between all those types of missions on a consistent basis.
Zig, describe to us exactly what you did, your job was on the F-4, what you had to do on a mission. Go through that for us.
Well, in a combat mission, normally the backseater was in charge of all the weapons, and I had, before flight, I'd pre-flight all the weapons and dealing with that, then I'd do all the radios, planning all the navigation, figuring out where we were going and everything else. One of the primary jobs that I had, I controlled the radar. We had a full interceptor radar and all the elements on it. That's what, especially the system was designed around that type of approach for air intercept. And that's what I did. I controlled all that and ran it. And if you had any of the other systems on it, electronic warfare systems or eventually lasers and all the other, you controlled all that from the back seat.
You had, the F-4 carried missiles and bombs? I mean,
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And,
now,
and then I had full stick too. I had a stick and a throttle. And I flew the airplane.
Right. The pilot became incapacitated for whatever
I can fly
reason.
the airplane.
Sure. Yeah.
We got a lot of, in the missions over in Vietnam, especially when you're working in North Vietnam, when you did a lot of tankers, or air-to-air refueling, I get a lot of stick time on a tanker, just sitting up there. We'd break each other back and forth.
You ever bring a bird back that was pretty well damaged and that sort of thing?
I've got a couple of them back.
Yeah. And kind of hairy situation, I guess.
They happen. That's one thing about combat. You're going to have an event. I couldn't tell you it's the first day, the last day, or where, but you're going to have an event happen to you that you know specifically that somebody pulled out a gun, put it to your forehead, and pulled the trigger because they tried to kill you. And that happens to all of us.
Sure. Yeah. When you got some free time in Vietnam, however little that was, what did you do? What was available? What kind of relaxation was available for you? and also I want to ask you, did you have good meals? How was the food? I always like to ask Vietnam veterans about the food.
Well, the Air Force, we had a little bit different situation and guys working in the field. We were all fixed base, so we had chow halls and everything else. To give you an example, we had really nice quarters at Da Nang. And it was modulux. We had air conditioning and type of units, and we had a little room, latrine in between the rooms with ice box and stuff like that. One of the in the duty officer of the day, you always have what they call a duty hog, or he's in charge of the grease boards and everything else, and getting ready to fly. One of his jobs was every day at about 4 or 5 o'clock is to make a recce run to the chow hall to see what they had, and then post it and say, you want to go or not? But
at your own risk. That sort of thing. Yeah.
There's a couple of stories around that at Da Nang and some history. But yeah, we could, it was done there. The food wasn't that bad. They had one good thing. If you were on the night schedule, they had what they called aircrew breakfast. So you could eat breakfast about 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, because we're a 24/7 operation. And you can go over there, and it wasn't open for the regular GIs and everything else. So you go in there, your aircrew and flight suit, and okay, I'm on a mission. They'd fix breakfast, and they used to make big omelets for you and everything else. They're pretty good.
Try to take care of you as best they could.
Yeah. But one thing about Da Nang, they did not like the air crews leaving the base. In the 6 months I was there, I got off base twice. We had a down day. We went over to China Beach one day and hit the beach. And I had one day I was over at the Marble Mountain. Can't remember why we went over to Marble Mountain for some reason, which is the Army.
Sightseeing excursion,
But we would have what they call good deals, mini good deals and maxi good deals. We would keep a crew in Thailand, in Udorn, and every 3 days we'd rotate an airplane in and pull the crew out. So as you go in the list, you eventually come up the priority list and you get a free 3 days up in Udorn. And that's how we do it.
Kind of a getaway.
Yeah, well, Thailand was that way.
Right.
It's entirely different than in Vietnam.
Did you always fly the same plane, or you switch off?
No, we switched airplanes. You never knew. The gunfighters at Da Nang at that time, we had both E models and D models. They're two different F4s. The E model is primarily known because it has a gun. The D model did not.
I see, yeah. Many of the veterans we talk with mention a family member, a tough sergeant maybe in part of their training, someone who helped prepare them for the actions they took in combat. Was there someone like that for you, Zig?
Well, I was spending that earlier. I spent 2 years operationally with a lot of Vietnam vets. And so that's where I learned the trade. Learn how to lie, cheat, and steal and make the mission work. And there's a lot about it. The point here I'm trying to make is when you're in a mission orientation, you make the mission work. Whatever it takes, you make the mission work. And that's what you try. And that's an attitude. And you can call it a fighter pilot attitude or however you want to do it. But that is something you do. If you back off on that, you can get yourself in trouble. Simple as that.
I see. Zig, you're the recipient of 5 awards of the Distinguished Flying Cross for your service in Vietnam and many air medals for your service. Talk about some of the missions, the action you were involved in that led to you receiving these Valor Awards.
Well, let me go over a whole lot because that changes. Remember I made a comment, we flew all types of missions.
Yeah.
When I started, we would go up and normally would come out on the frag. A frag in that sense is a fragmentary order. There's a giant air tasking order that goes out for all the units. The fragmentary is your little piece of it down in here, and then call it the frag. So you get tasked every day. You say you got a time and mission number, tell you what type of mission, your bomb load, what you're doing. So you'd work that in. I started off when we would get launched out and go up and find a forward air controller flying around Vietnam someplace or in Laos, and he'd have a target, and then he would FAC us in, we'd drop our bombs on the target, and then come home. As I got checked out in theater and dealing with that, we went over and started flying what they called gunship escorts at night. This is where we had a AC-130 gunship flying up and down the Ho Chi Minh Trail at night. And we would keep an F-4 up behind him flying around with bombs in case guns came up and we'd go throw a bomb at the guns to keep any guns off of me. Right. So we would do that mission, and that mission would take off out of Da Nang, work a period, go off to a tanker, refuel, come back, work another period. And if we don't expend, then we'd go hit a night vac somewhere over in Laos. The controllers would send you over to the rendezvous for that and then drop your bombs on a target. That was pretty much what was going on until April happened. In April, the North Vietnamese over, and I said the war changed it. We started flying a lot more missions for it. I actually flew during the BAT 2-1 series. You remember, I don't know if you remember the movie BAT 2-1.
I remember that, yeah.
I actually wound up flying during it. I was on nights. And we would take off out of Da Nang, get up and rendezvous with a Loran bird, which is for night bombing. Loran's a Navy navigation system, but you could, for shifts, which you could do precision bombing with it from there. Okay. They'd fly us into the DMZ up there, and hopefully no SAMs are going to be shot at us, and drop during that. And that was a type mission. Then we started flying a lot of close air support missions, where we do load up a bird and put it on alert, you know, either 15-minute or 1-hour alert. And that was with snakes, high drag bombs and napalm. And close air support is when you have somebody in contact, troops, and you actually put direct support into them. And you've probably talked to a lot of the folks in the military know what that was like, right. And those type of missions. Mm. We started going north in that time period, working up the Panhandle in targets. They had brought a lot of AAA and a lot of SAMs down. We were dodging SAMs. Working our way through that and work with a fast FAC. And fast FAC was a F-4 doing forward air control work up in North Vietnam. And that is because the slow movers couldn't survive because of all the missiles and the handhelds. They were shooting different types of missiles at us. We worked up in that type of mission and target, and eventually we started going up to the Hanoi, Haiphong area and supporting strikes and the strikes going in up there. There we started flying MiG-cap and then MiG sweeps and escort missions. And that is when we were loaded up with air-to-air missiles and looking for the MiGs and trying to shoot down a MiG and keeping them off the attacker flights.
You encounter quite a few
yes.
on different occasions?
I have been in a series of MiG engagements.
Now, during this period, I would imagine you lost some crews.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, yeah. That's always a tough thing to do.
Yeah. And from that, little growth on at Christmas '72, during the B-52 bombing, we flew escorts on the B-52s. So when the long trails of raids come in, we were up there flying on those and chasing them over Hanoi.
Well, you did a lot of missions, over 200 missions, and received 5 DFCs. That's awesome. Zig, describe to us what it's like to serve in a war zone, the thoughts you have of possibly being killed or wounded during a battle. What goes through your mind?
Easy to talk about, not easy to talk about. You got to remember, by this time I'm a professional in the sense that I've decided to stick around and in the military, and that's your job. Yeah. And you know what you're getting yourself into, and you see people get killed, and you see planes blowing out of the sky, which I have done. People go out and they don't come home. That is a hard thing. You know, you don't get over it in a lot of ways. But the whole idea that you're going to go out and fly every day. Now, I'm not going to say that you're just up hunky-dory going out and want to go out and do it every day, because there's good days and there's bad days. Sure. But that's your job. That's what you do. That's why you're there.
So what
you're scared? Yeah, I'm scared. I'm going to have to go out and do it again. How well can you do it?
Yeah. Were you always like on edge, butterflies before each mission, or?
Some days were very good. Some days, I don't feel good about doing this today. Yeah. You know, there were days like that.
You're human, right?
Yeah, I'm human.
Yeah. How do you feel when people call you a hero, when they read about or hear about what you did in combat? How does that make you feel?
Well, I'm a little embarrassed by it.
Yeah.
And it is something, I don't think of myself as a hero. I did my job. Yeah. You know, and that's what I went out and did. And I was trained to do it, and I could do it, and I did it well. Yeah.
You often wonder, would you do it all over again? Is that those thoughts gone through your head?
No, probably. I wouldn't do it at my age, definitely.
Our age.
But in the sense that with a family and everything else, I've gone through it, and I know the reason why we do it, and it's something that has to be done. And if we don't have a strong military, this country will go right down the tubes, and because there are a lot of people out there that don't like us. Yeah. I've often advocated, if you want to change the political environment here in the United States, instead of creating a draft situation, what I would do is anybody coming out of high school, I'd put them in a program and let them live in a third world country for 2 years, then bring them home and see what their attitude's like.
I imagine it would be quite a change.
It would be quite a change.
Zig, you mentioned you know, the bat missions earlier. You served during the war, and through the years, I'm sure you've seen a few war movies. Do you think war is depicted accurately in most of the movies or TV shows that you have seen?
Most of them,
pertaining
no.
to aviation.
Most of them, no.
Yeah.
The reason why is in jet warfare, the speeds, the area that you're flying with, and the environment, you can't put it on a small screen. There's no way you can do it. Even on a big screen, you can't do it. You see some things that every once in a while that, yeah, that's kind of realistic.
Yeah.
I remember Top Gun, the movie, when that came out around there. If you remember, they would be flying in like this and called to merge and come in, and planes go whoom, and the first thing you do is see the head whip back as hard. That is kind of realistic, because that's the way you're looking at it. Because that's one of the jobs you have to do, especially what I did in backseat. You're the eyes.
Yeah.
You see the threat here and around you, and that's what you got to look for.
But you're sitting up a little bit higher in the F4 at the back seat, right?
No, actually, I have a little bit less because of the canopy line.
Okay, all right.
And on it. And just like one of the other missions I flew, I was a fastback in North Vietnam, and I described the mission. And we were flying out of Tok Le, and those are long missions. They were 6-7 hour missions. We would fly out of Tok Le, hit a tanker, go to North Vietnam, come out, hit a tanker, go back to North Vietnam, hit a tanker, go back to North Vietnam, hit a tanker, come out again and fly home. You know, but our job was to find targets. That was specifically what we did.
Right.
We didn't carry any bombs on it, we just carried marking rockets.
Right.
And so we flew a lot of low level, dodged a lot of guns, finding trucks and things that were down there, all the different types of things. You had to plan that out every day, what you're going to do, because I would have a card, which I'd have maybe 4 or 5 strikes tasked to me, and my job was to find those targets for them. And that's what we did. And those type of missions are very long, and they're probably some of the best flying I've ever done, bar none. You know, you got 2 young captains sitting in there. Yeah. They give you a multi-million-dollar airplane with a lot of JP-4 around. He says, go find targets and blow them up. It's like being a D9 tractor driver, you know?
Honestly, yeah, something similar. Now, you served a year in Vietnam.
Yes.
And one mission, right? Not on one mission, one tour
right.
in Vietnam. What was it like when you came back home? Did you encounter any of the protests that were going on during that time?
No, let's slide back a little bit. Since I was in college in California, went to Long Beach State University in there. I'd seen things like that before I went in. Matter of fact, one of the funny things about a protest riot, I was doing interviews both the Air Force and the Navy by commissioning programs. And I had to go downtown to LA to the induction center for the Navy interview. And when I got down there, here you're a young kid, you know, 22 years old, coat tied, you know, carrying a briefcase, and trying to look important. Yeah. And they had, you know, about 400 or 500 people in front of the induction center laying down on the ground. Yeah. You know? So you're stepping over the bodies like this, trying to get into the induction center. And then there's a Marine standing there, it's about 6'6", and standing looking at you and he says, what do you want here, boy?
What's your business here, right?
Yeah.
Sort of
however, I did have when I came home, I did have one type of thing I'll tell you about, an incident. I met a friend of ours. We were from the same town, lived in the same area in LA. And we were stationed together in Holloman, and we just fly, get an airplane, come back home, and run around. Right. So we came home. He was in Korea, and TDY down to Vietnam during the war. And then we both came home roughly at the same time. So we had made a plan. We said, we're going to go skiing to Utah. So I picked up my car in LA, and we jumped on, and we were up to Utah. And I was up on a ski lift, you know, going up a ski lift. You know, you're sitting there, you got some guy sitting next to you, and you start talking and everything else. Yeah. And you know, well, what do you do? What do you do? So, well, I just came back from
civilian clothes.
Yeah, civilians. I'm civilian clothes. And I said, well, I just got back from Vietnam. I've been flying combat over there. And this guy turned around and looked at me and says, oh, you're one of those baby killers. I was so shocked, I didn't know what to do. I got off the thing as fast as I could. Yeah. But then I started thinking about it. Yeah. If he was right, he was not a very smart individual. We're 70 some odd feet up in the air looking down, and I'm sitting there and you're calling me a murderer.
Not a good time
not
to
his
do
time
that.
to do that, so he was not very smart.
Some of our combat veterans talk about the adjustment they have to make once they come home from a war zone. Zig, what was it like for you when you came home?
The comments I've heard, I remember coming home on 7 and 7, that's R&R and leave for a week and a half. And the first thing I noticed when I came back from the States, I'm doing this. Why are there airplanes up here? What are the airplanes doing in L.A.? Too many airplanes in the air.
Yeah.
And things like that.
Yeah.
My mother told me I was very antsy.
Yeah.
I don't remember any major things. I was going, more interested in going into my next assignment and eventually heading for Florida because I was going to Homestead down south of Miami. Mm-hmm. And getting back into it and flying again and everything else because I wanted to go fly. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't really have any that type of regrets or downsides on it. But a lot of it was just getting off the hyper level that you're dealing with.
Did it affect your outlook on life overall? I mean,
well, it's part of a maturation process. Going through college, growing up, and coming out into it, you're learning that what matters in life, mm-hmm. and elements on it, and what friendship is, marriage, family, the importance of those type of things, and you understand a little bit about the country and what a good country we have here and how to protect it and keep it going. And that is something that you learn, and it's like I said, it's a maturation process. Mm-hmm. And as your job changes, you learn the different things, and I learned how to write and those type of things. I had a mentor on that, and which I had never learned before, and those type of things.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, after Vietnam, you were stationed at Homestead near Miami. Tell us a little about that part of your military career. And you stayed in 20 years, I believe. Tell us about some of the other places you were stationed at.
Well, it was at
what you were doing.
I was at Homestead, mm-hmm. Which was primarily a training base. I was the a plans officer, operations plans officer for the wing. And wing had 3 or 4 squadrons.
Right.
So I'm up in the hierarchy a little bit more.
During you were major at or
no,
captain?
I'm captain.
Okay, I see.
I'm captain. From that, a couple of things happened. I got selected to go as a civilian for 6 months to work my master's degree, to finish my master's degree at FIU, Florida International, at which time I met my wife, mm-hmm. and we met and we got married down there. And that into that part of the career, we packed up and went to Okinawa.
You married a Florida girl, right?
I married a Florida girl. Well, originally East Tennessee.
Oh, okay, right.
But Pompano Beach.
Right.
And so we went to Okinawa, which was interesting because she had no military background whatsoever. And, pack her up and do a military move, and you know what those are like.
That's right, yeah.
And put her over on an island in the far western Pacific. It doesn't speak English. Yeah. And
so quite a bit of change there.
Yeah, well, you have a fight, it's the type of thing or anything like this, the question is, how well can you swim? But no, that was good for us. We had good friends. I had some friends that...
that was at Kadena. I remember that well.
That was at Kadena. Yeah, it was at Kadena. Yeah. And we met some very good close friends up there, Marine Corps, by the way.
Right.
My next door neighbor was the exec at Fatima. Yeah.
Marines and Air Force, I think, basically took over Okinawa, basically.
Oh, yeah, they have. They have. The Army basically packed up and left.
Yeah.
From there, we came back to the States, went to Moody in South Georgia, operational. I had a command there. I was a flight commander in an mm-hmm. operational squadron. That was an interesting operation because we were the prime line fighter squadron in the Air Force for deployment. So I did a number of at least three red flags out the big exercises out in Nevada. Mm-hmm. And then we were the first group of Americans to deploy into Egypt back in 1980. Mm. It was right after the Russians left and the year before Sadat was assassinated. Mm. And living on the desert, flying up there, working with the Egyptians and what was left of the Russians. And it was a very interesting operation.
Interesting tours, yeah.
Well, yeah, it was. There's a batch of war stories you can tell on the side. But then we came home from there. Then I got sucked up into staff out of Moody, went to Langley Air Force Base, and I was in the Joint Studies group up there for the Plans Directorate and Headquarters TACT. I was Chief of Battlefield Management, working that.
Were you still flying some?
No, now I'm not flying. When I left Moody, that was the last I flew.
I see.
We did that for about 3 years, and then I was assigned over into Europe. I was the Tactical Liaison Officer for Headquarters TAC requirements to Headquarters USAFE, the headquarters in Europe, and NATO. And so I worked both NATO and Air Force issues for command and control and interoperability over there.
You have to fly back and forth from Brussels, you know? And
I've been all over, and that was one of the good deals of being in town. You know, you're a one-man office, and they think you're a commander of some big unit, and you know, so you can pull all kinds of things. But then we decided to go ahead and retire, because I had girls now getting up into school and high school to come in place. Went ahead and retired, went back out to California, because that's my entry, trying to get a job. Then we got a job here in Huntsville.
Where did you, what company did you work with?
Initially, Teledyne Brown Engineering.
I see. Okay.
They brought me here and worked for them for a year. Then I worked for Cass for about 5 years, and Schaefer for a year and a half, and then went to SY Technologies, which was eventually bought out by L3 Communications. And about 5, 6 years ago, I retired from L3 as a director.
So you and Verdi decided to make Huntsville your home.
Yeah, I was kind of grew on us. We were, matter of fact, we just moved, and we lived in the first house for over 30 years.
Really? Okay.
And now we live over on Hampton Cove side. We downsized in a condo.
Yeah. Zig, what advice would you like to give to young people who may be considering a life, you know, in the military? What advice would you give?
I would talk to a few people that have done it, and so they have an understanding of the pros and the cons. It depends heavily on what you're going to do too, in the military.
And be happy and be satisfied.
Yeah, be satisfied. But you have to understand you're going to have to go into a mission-oriented life. The mission comes first, and I hate to say it, but everything else comes second. And you learn that, and you're dealing with it. You know, the pros on that is some of the best friends and family type of operations you ever see will come with it. When we were at Moody, you know, the best way I could describe this squadron life with a family is if you took your family and everybody else you're working with, and you all live in the same fraternity house. It's probably because everybody knows what everybody's doing. Somebody, and this is one of the pros in the military, as you know. If something's happening, there's always somebody else to look after somebody.
Right. Yeah.
And you keep care of each other, and you make sure you do that. And that is one of the big pros of the family. The downside, especially today, is if you're in any combat arms type of operation, you're going to deploy. And you're going to be gone a lot. You know, we would pick up deployments for a month at a time. Peacetime, I spent 3 years in Okinawa, 3 years, a year in Vietnam, another 3.5 years in Germany. But those are different than, hey, I'll be gone for the next 6 months. I'm going over drop bombs in Afghanistan. Right. That is the type of environment they live in, and that's very, very hard on the families. You're going to have to learn to adjust it. Some people never adjust to it. Some people do. It's just like children. You raise children in the military, and they're all brats, and that is not a bad word. And they'll tell you that. But a brat, when you hear the term in the military, that means it's the kid is raised in a military family, as you know. Right. And it's a badge of honor. Right.
Okay, tell us about your family. I believe you and your wife, Verdi, have been married, what, 43 years
43
now?
years.
2 daughters? Tell us
two
about
daughters.
your family.
I have a daughter. My older daughter lives in Boca Raton. I have 3 grandchildren there. And my youngest daughter lives up in Chicago, and she's a business person, works up there. Okay. And they're both married and doing well. I have a sister in California, and Verdia, my wife, has a brother that lives in Sarasota. And so we have little families scattered around.
So we go to Boca Raton to spoil the grandkids occasionally?
Yeah, we've tried to,
I think you were mentioning you just came back a few days ago.
Yeah, we just got back from there. They'll be up here visiting us here in a week.
Spoiling session.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing wrong with that, right?
Hey, that's what grandparents are for.
All right. So let's get back to you settled here in Huntsville and talk about some of the work that you were involved with the civilian industry?
Well, initially when I came here, I was capitalizing on my experience in military. Mm-hmm. And Teledyne hired me for a software program, and it's called Extended Air Defense Test Bed. And I was the product manager for going over to Europe, back over to Europe, building an air module for the software. And so I ran that for a year. And after that, when I moved over to CAS, following contracts, I provided support for that all over places, like training up in the air staff and places when they started taking and using the modeling and simulation capability. Mm-hmm. But I was heavily into interoperability. I was on the initial THAAD team, supporting the government for the THAAD missile system, working in their battle command systems.
Great deal of travel involved in that?
There's a lot of travel. I spent a number of times in Europe and back and forth, and I'd had to write a report on evaluating the bidders for the THAAD and those type of things. Then I got moved around, did some consulting, got heavily involved with the Space and Missile Defense Command and the Tech Center and the Battle Lab, and supporting them. And I was managing, when I finished up, I was managing software programs for the Army, some advanced programs, science and technology type programs for development.
Zig, was that an adjustment for you coming out of 20 years of military life, going into civilian structure? How did that?
I didn't have a problem in that. It is a problem for some people. It's different. It's the best way to describe it. In the military, you always had somebody you knew, somebody around here. Civilian life, you may talk to your neighbor.
Right. And
that is one of the issues. So your life is different in that sense. As a retired officer, I have some benefits that I can capitalize on, and that's what we use for that. But generally speaking, with our friends in church and everything else here, we developed a life here. We have a lot of very close friends, both in our neighborhood now and also in at church. So this has been a very, very good environment.
I would say you've adjusted quite well. Your volunteerism really shows out. I want to talk about that now. I know you stay very busy. You're not only a fellow member of the Madison County Military Heritage Commission, but you're also associated with several other veteran organizations. Talk about some of those organizations and why it's so important to continue to serve.
Well, I talked a little bit about the River Rats.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's more of a national organization. And in a lot of sense, as an active rat, I'm up here in northern Alabama. I'm the token fighter pilot.
Okay.
This is an Army town.
The F4 guy, yeah.
I'm the F4 guy. Everybody knows me that way, too.
Right. Yeah.
We also have a very, very strong Air Force Association up here. Matter of fact, our chapter has been voted the best chapter for 2 years in a running by the Air Force Association.
Yeah.
And which is interesting when we don't even have an airfield here.
And it's an Army base.
It's an Army base. So we have a lot of Air Force people.
Right.
But it's heavily laid into missiles and also intelligence. Well, there's a few of us flyers, but that's the type of thing. So I've worked with them. And one of the projects we're working, it looks like it's coming to fruition right now, over an Aviation Challenge at the Space Center. There's an F4 and a F-111 over there, and have not been painted in 20 plus years. And so it looks like we're going to get those rehabbed here. And the F4 is actually a MiG killer from Operation Bolo in 1967.
Yeah.
Robin Olds.
Yeah. Very same kind that you flew.
That's a C model. Yeah. But I was one of the initial military docents out at the Space Center. We're setting that up and worked that. I've worked as a docent. I haven't done this year, because last year was lost because of the wall. And so I'm heavily with that. I support the NAVFOC, North Alabama Fraternal organizations for military organizations, and a number of other side organizations on it. I've been involved for the last 6 years with the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War, working the displays and setting up the type of things for it, and working speaking. Mm-hmm. I give talks on Linebacker 1, Linebacker 2 to organizations. I'll do 2 or 3 of those a year, mm-hmm. and on it. So that, and again, you were talking about white tables, do those type of things.
Yeah.
So I keep on. And then last year, as you know, it was the lost year for a lot of us because when we brought the wall at Heels coming in.
Right. You're heavily involved with that, I know, yeah.
I was in charge, committee chairman for the JC building, which was all the displays, the speakers, and all the events that we wanted there. And also all the interviews with Joe Galloway.
Yeah. You're so involved, Zig. How does Verdia get you to mow the yard or do the honeydew projects?
Why do you think I am now living in a condo? That's called an HOA.
I had to bring that up, didn't I? I want you to go back a little bit. You know, we mentioned this a little bit earlier, but well, first of all, I want to congratulate you. You were named. Was it last year? Named the Veteran of the Year for the state of Alabama. I was Veteran of the Year. That was quite an experience and quite an honor. Talk about that for us.
Well, it was something I definitely did not deserve. There's a lot of people much more deserving than I am.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Well, yeah, there's some people that work in dailies with veterans, and those are the people that, when you deal with the veterans that have the problems. You know, we're losing a lot of veterans to suicide, and we're losing a lot of veterans, World War II veterans right now, and they have a lot of problems. And even today, the young soldiers and the people around here, you know, being an enlisted young guy in the first few years in your service, and if you're married with children, it's a tough life. The money is not there. And that's just there's a lot of organizations that provide that support. And you know, financially, you know, when you get to be a little older and field grade and dealing element, you know, it's a little bit different, or a senior NCO. But the young kids have a tough time. It is rough just coming in. Now the good side of that is they put their time in, and you know, they get benefits and for education and elements on that. But that's something, those people that are doing the daily stuff, you know, the guys that are living down under the bridge down here, you know, that type of work. That's the real work. What I do, I'm an administrator, you know, here, you go do this, go do that.
You mentioned it a couple of times during our interview, but I want you to go talk about how did you get involved with the POW MIA, you know, missing man table. Talk about that a little bit more.
Well, let's go.
That's very important.
Let's go a little history on the table. The table, as we see it today, in the ceremony, really comes out of about 1967, again, the Robin Olds era in Vietnam, and the River Rats, the founding of the River Rats. That was something that evolved at that time to remember those who were not with you, and those who were killed or missing in action or a POW. And because POW, building up POW, remember we had by the end of the war we had over 500 POWs in Hanoi. That's where it evolved from, as a ceremony to remember that. After the war, that started slowly branching out in services, and that there was a way to remember your missing. And as such, it's part of it. Now, as a POW part of it, I got personal, you know, feelings on it. I know a lot of the POWs. I have personal friends that are POWs. There, by the grace of God, go I, too.
Right.
And because when my front seater was shot down, I was supposed to be with him. I was broken down in Benoit with a broken airplane and didn't fly the mission over Hanoi, and he went up and got shot down. And Dave is a personal friend. We just saw each other here a month or so ago. We still see each other. He lives up in the Carolinas. So I have a personal feeling in the POW and try to. After the war, I got to know a lot of the old time, not a lot. I knew some of them. I used to work for Ted Guy for a year, who was the #2 guy up in rank-wise for up there, and got to know a lot of them. And so through the Rats, you know, they're always, we get together maybe once a year, or you know, every 2 years, or sometimes there's a reunion every year. I don't go to all of them, but we go to them sometimes. And so I have some personal feelings about the table and the evolution.
Strong feelings.
Strong feelings about it. And so it just came up evolving a few years ago, doing it up here. Janet Marino and the group, First Patriots, were wanting to do it and everything else. And oh yeah, I was involved a little bit with it. So I actually sat down and rewrote the ceremony and put it in order correctly, because there's a lot of things that are different. Maybe people have variations of it. And so since then, I've been narrating, and I narrate probably have 4 or 5 of those a year with the girls.
It's so impressive, so solemn.
And put it out on it. So I have a personal feeling for it. and why everything is there, from the rose, the inverted wine glass, to the Bible, and what they mean, and what they mean to those people who were actually POWs. And that's the question, you know, today, you know, they got to separate church and state, you got to remove the Bible. Hey, you talk to the guys that wish they had a Bible when they were sitting up there. Yep. And you know, a lot of people don't know they had regular church services up in Hanoi. And you can check John McCain's book about that. He talks about it. But what they would do, they were not allowed to have Bibles or anything reading material. The North Vietnamese would give them. So they had to say, okay, Tom, you're up. Tomorrow you're running the service, Sunday service. And you had to do it from memory.
Alternated, yeah.
Figure that one out. But they did it.
Yeah.
And so it means a lot to those people.
Zig, in 2003, you're inducted into the Madison County Military Heritage Hall of Heroes.
Yes.
Talk about that experience and what that meant to you.
It was, again, I think it was one of these things that's probably not deserved, but it was an honor to be inducted and to bring up to those folks, you know, some of the things. And again, I'm the token Air Force guy a little bit coming in there. And
we have to get the Air Force involved in this.
Yeah,
too.
we got to sit in here. We're slowly taking over this town. You realize that.
But that was quite an experience for you.
Yes,
I'm
it
sure.
was.
Yeah.
And I've been involved with those now ever since.
Yeah, good. Zig, I want to thank you for participating in our oral history interview series and allowing us to preserve your military experience for the people of this community. And thank you, sir, for your service to our country.
No, thank you, Tom. You've been there too.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that very much. Now, if you'd like more information regarding the interview or any interview in our Military Heritage series, visit the Madison County Military Heritage Commission website at mcmhc.us. I'm Tom Kinnemer. Thank you very much for being with us.